So, welcome to another episode of the Jobs for Women podcast. I am very excited to have a dear friend and incredible woman in business, Tanya Rolfe. So, Tanya is the co-founder of Sophia, which is a platform for women to address the gender wealth and investing gap. And after years of working in corporate law firms and seeing huge gender issues, Tanya decided it was time for a change, putting that fire in her belly to work and address gender inequality. When Tanya moved from London to Singapore, she started the first all-female angel investment group to invest into women-led startups, and the angel group organically morphed into a venture capital fund. Tanya experienced firsthand that women were the answer to the gender bias she saw within entrepreneurship. Female founders receive less than 3% of all venture capital funding, and I know we're going to get into that a little bit later. Sophia was born with a mission to educate and empower women to mobilize the almost $93 trillion in wealth held by women. Sophia not only teaches women how to gain control of their personal finances, but also addresses the gender wealth gap and gender investing gap. Sophia works with corporates who want to offer the courses to their employees and to financial institutions who want to better connect with their female customers. Tanya is also the co-founder of Harriet. Harriet supports female founders as they fundraise for external capital. At Harriet, they work with founders to help secure the right funding for their business, and they partner with strategic venture capital funds with a focus on bridging the gender gap, an important yet challenging metric for many VCs. So welcome to the Jobs for Women podcast.
Thanks, Zoe. Super happy to be here, especially with you. I feel like we're super connected because of how we met.
Yes, yeah. I'll just tell everyone who's listening and watching. We met in London when we had our first babies all those years ago.
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah, we met. We did something called NCT, and we formed an amazing connection. And now I feel like the universe has spoken to us and aligned us in our mission for what we're doing for women. So let's just kick straight off. We've got loads to talk about. If we don't get through everything, we've got our Women in Finance webinar, which Tanya's going to join us for, which I'm really excited about, end of 26th of January. But so to kick off, can you talk us through your early career? I know that you practiced law, you worked in a variety of private practice law firms, headed up teams of lawyers, and I'm just keen to know how that experience was for you as a woman in law.
Yes, good question. It feels like many moons ago, and also it feels really strange because now I'm, being immersed into entrepreneurship, both my own ventures, but also women-led companies and supporting them. So it feels super strange to think back that I used to be in this very structured law kind of environment because it's super rigid, and it's the opposite of where I think I fit. But anyway, I remember falling into the career of working in law because I thought this is a very reputable, noble career choice. I'm going to go and do this, and off I went, and it was super frustrating. I had a variety of roles. I was in London, I was in Australia. And when I came back to London, I was like blown away by just if I'm honest, like it was super blatant sexism and issues. And I just was like, this cannot be right. But to be honest with you, I look back and I think, wow, I didn't know any better. Like, I didn't know to speak up. I didn't know I knew it wasn't quite right. And I was like scratching my head thinking this is strange. But I wasn't informed, I was in my late 20s. So, the penny hadn't dropped for me. But when I made that move after I had the children from London to Singapore, it was then that I came here, and then that fire, as you said in the intro, kind of like emerged again. And I was like, oh yeah. Like as soon as I started looking at entrepreneurship and like it's startup and angel investing, and I was like, hang on, where are all the women? And then and what would happen is I would go to pitches and they would roll out a marketing woman like in the corner, just so they could say they were, gender diverse, or they had a woman in their team, a silent marketing woman. And I was like, no. And then I kind of was like looked inwards and remembered all of this inequality that I had in my early career, and I was like, aha, and I sort of joined the pieces together at that point.
Wow. So, when you talked about, excuse me, in early career, I can relate to that a lot, because it's almost like we just got on with it. We didn't speak
Mm.
up. It was kind of like the norm, if we even recognized it. It's always sort of been there. But I think, especially as I've got older now, I've got so much fire in my belly about this, and especially, like, we both have daughters, and there's something, like, I went to like a training session the other day, and I was talking about Job for Women, and I talked about my daughter, and I was like, she can be anything. She can be a CEO. She can be whatever she wants. And I was getting really passionate, and I was like, this is what's driving me, because I don't want her to have the same experiences that we've had. Do you think, when you think about your early law career, do you think, I know you're not working in that area now, do you reckon it's still the same? Do you reckon those
One,
practices are still the same?
100%. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. 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 I don't see a lot of movement. The topics of conversation, because I have many lawyer friends still, and I just recently did a webinar, like a conference, a talk to the Singapore's General Counsel Committee. So it's like they've got 400 general counsels, so lawyers, and we chatted afterwards, and everything they said, like my stomach sort of dropped, because I was like, oh God, we've been talking about that for 15 years. This is boring. Like, we know all of this and nothing's changed. And I was like, wow, I really made the right decision to step away. Like, oh,
yeah.
we need more female lawyers. Oh, we need more, sociable working hours. Oh, we need this. Yeah, we knew that 20 years ago, though. And look, we're still not there. So I feel like the whole world gets stuck in doing reports and like, oh, let's do some analysis. Let's do another report. No, we don't need any more reports. The data's pretty clear. Start with the research and take some action and
Yeah.
improve things, because that is what's going to move the needle, not more reports, not more data. We don't need that.
Yeah, you need action, don't we? So how has that then influenced and shaped your career now? So you've moved out of law, you're doing some incredible things. You've got your two businesses. Can you talk us through how those experiences in early career and this fire in your belly has, inspired the way in which you're going now?
So yeah, I really, when I came to Singapore and I had these two tiny children, and I really thought, I want to do something. I don't want to go back to law. What shall I do? And I started with this angel investment network, and it was a pure network of women, women like me, because Singapore is full of women that had previous careers, and perhaps they moved to Singapore with their husband more often than not, um, and they for jobs, etc. And so I thought there must be more women like me who want to support female entrepreneurs, and so went out and gathered a group of women who had some money to invest, and etc. etc. And kind of did that for a few years and realized, wow, there really is a lot of women founders out there. And when I looked at, well, who's investing into, I realized that they're just not investing into women, right? I was, okay, well, this is an arbitrage opportunity, because if women are 51% of the population, it cannot be true that all of the entrepreneurial talent resides in 49% of the population. It's going to be evenly distributed, newsflash for everyone out there. So I thought, well, this is an opportunity, because I can invest into these women. I'm not fighting with other people to invest in and to support these women, because the ecosystem, the investors are not that interested. So this is an opportunity. This is a smart business investment opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So rolled it into a venture.
Oh, I think I've just lost some sound. I can't hear you.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
there. You're back. I think it was when you touched your mic. Anyway, go for it.
Oh, sorry. And went out to the market and said, hey, we've got these amazing female entrepreneurs, and we want to raise some money for our fund so we can invest into them. The response was, well, really? There are female entrepreneurs in this region that are good, that are investable, that actually have good businesses. What really? And what about you? You're a female fund manager. Like we haven't seen this before. Like it was like so many barriers that just stumped investors. And I said, hold on a minute, this is ridiculous. And so and the reason that these investors didn't know that these women founders exist is because women entrepreneurs are not knocking on the door of these traditional venture capitalists and investors, because you've only got to go on their website for 5 minutes to see that generally there's not many women in their portfolio of investments. So who's going to go knocking on their door? Oh, I think I'll go and waste my time on this VC who's never invested into a woman before. Like, and especially as I'm building a business for endometriosis or period care or, menopause. Oh, these guys will definitely understand that. No, this is not happening. So all of these investors think that there are no women out there building businesses. There are. They're just not knocking on your door for obvious reasons, and I don't blame them. So I just said, hold on a second. I'm not going to bang my head on a brick wall trying to convince men and the investors, and not just men, actually. There's lots of women who have sort of grown up in that and been trained by the ecosystem, by VCs and investor with the mindset, and they've become products of that environment too, right? So they've been trained to spot a good deal in a certain way. So they're just as biased, actually. But I said, I don't want my impact on the world to be that I managed to bang my head on this wall and get $10 million, and I invested that into female 10, 15 female entrepreneurs. Actually, the real solution is to get women investing. Why aren't women investing? And that's when I dived into, where are all the women in the investment space? And really, as you said in the intro, women have $93 trillion. This is no small amount of money collectively. This is a lot of power. We don't have to go with our begging bowls asking for money from guys that don't understand endometriosis or period care. Great if they want to get on board. Fantastic. And I'm not saying we need to exclude men. We need an inclusive investment ecosystem. But we also need to understand as women that we have a lot of power within ourselves that we can mobilize. And the way to do that, in my opinion, is through education, community, learning together, going on that journey together, and building products for women, financial education products to get them excited, to remove the unnecessary jargon, to make it relatable, to deliver it from women instead of, we have over 80 and 90% of financial advisors and wealth managers, respectively, are male. So, no one's building a product for you, Zoe. No one cares because you're not one of their clients and I'm not, and our daughters won't be. They're building them for men because men are largely the clients of these big organizations that are building financial products. So if you engage Zoe with some products that are built by her and they're delivered by me, who you recognize, who you can relate to, the engagement is very, very different.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you've brought up women's health, and I know on another podcast, The Purpose Effect, you talked about that women, when they create businesses, often it's for women, to help women, to support women. And is that because there aren't the companies, the businesses, that they're not being created for women, like you said? Oh my gosh, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, I think female health is one of those major areas, and it's something that you and I have spoken about for many years and on and off since we had the children. We certainly had our fair share of female health concerns around that as well, pregnancy, post-pregnancy, all of that, and so absolutely, I think, of course, women are building businesses in all areas, but if you think about women, for women, we generally identify gaps in the market. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe that I go to the doctor and my contraceptive options are like the same as what my mum had 40 years ago, right? This is ridiculous.
Mhm.
I'm gonna like do some research here, and I'm like, I'm gonna see if I can change this or think about this. Or endometriosis, you're fed up with your period pain every month. That's me, by the way. Or period care, like what are your options? Like they're all rubbish.
Yeah.
And so we see these gaps because there are gaps, of course, because if you do have a period care business, chances of you walking into a VC of men, and it's not a reflection on these men are awful. It's just how can they understand what a period pain feels like, or, leakage, or, all the problems that just
Absolutely.
women have. So, it's much easier to, if I pitch to you, Zoe, a product for pregnancy, you've been there, you've done that, and you're going to go, oh yeah, I get that. Like it's obvious. So of
Yeah.
course we find more gaps because we're not funded as much.
I love what you're doing because it's a long road. But the work that you're doing is going to make significant, huge changes for women now and in the future. Because what have women been doing? Where have they been going? Have they been going into these rooms full of men that don't understand, or have they just been having to source elsewhere? Like what's it been historically? What have they been doing?
Mostly sitting on their money in cash. So it's sitting on their wealth in
Oh,
cash in the bank,
okay.
which is why we have a lot of financial institution clients. So if you're a bank, you might partner with us at Sophia because we can come along, roll us out to your female customers and get them excited, engaged, knowledge, community, all of those things with when money's concerned. And then at the end of it, they say, oh, I'm really excited to start investing and I understand this now and I'm ready to go. Um, and here's my bank, who's offered me this great service from Sophia. I'm going to start investing with them. So you can see why they work with us. And we're third party, so we're a bit more trusted because women, we're quite skeptical actually as women. Like we're quite, we don't trust easily, especially financial education. And I get it, right? It's a bit of a joke, but you think, oh yeah, you're just trying to sell me something like for your own benefit. Like this is not impartial advice, but we do provide that. So I can totally see. So yeah, they've not been doing much at all. So we feel like, of course, we feel it's like game changing what we're offering. But I genuinely think like it is, and it can be for women. But I think one of the things I do just want to mention today is someone asked me this morning if I wanted to be connected to a group. She sent me the link, and it was about motivating and inspiring and engaging girls to dream big and be anything they want. Now I don't know about you, Zoe, because but our daughters are second children, which gives them a sort of confidence edge anyway. And then they're girls, so probably quite strong, and my daughter's certainly quite feisty.
Yeah.
Yeah, you recognize all of that. I don't think my daughter needs any more inspiring, motivating, encouraging. What needs to happen is our boys, our older children, need to grow up in a world where they see their sisters as their equal. That is the most important thing, because it feels like we're often trying to say, well, what are women doing wrong? How can they do something better? So they don't get access to funding. They don't get paid as much. They're not in the senior roles. It must all be the women. Like the problem must be with them. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Of course, we can all do better, everyone. But I really don't think that we should put the focus on such young girls. This was very young girls. And I said, actually, I don't think this is for me. I think as far as I can see, girls around me, children, they're fully empowered and ready to go. They've got, they're firecrackers. And
Yeah.
they just don't, they will, their blocker will be if men block them, not not themselves. They're not holding themselves back.
That is brilliant. Everything you just said is like the perfect soundbite, because I love that you looked at what they were doing and then said it's not for me, because let's just take a step back, actually. And I think you're totally right. I've read, I don't know if you've read The Authority Gap. I am so obsessed with that book,
No.
and her anecdotes, her quotes and her stats are incredible. And she talks a lot about pinning the blame on women. I mean, it's vast what she goes into. She goes into the workplace, but also, sexual harassment and everything in which the women is put under the microscope. Should she have worn those clothes? Should she have run in the dark with earphones? And it's always the microscope is back on the women. So I think it's great that, yeah, I totally agree. My daughter is feisty. I mean, she started the day this morning demanding to go downstairs at 5:30 in the morning, and I was, half asleep. Like she does. I wholeheartedly agree with you. She doesn't need any more motivation. It's about having that conversation that we are equal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what we need to tell them. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's really interesting. And the more research I do, the more I delve into it, the more frustrated I get. And when they're little, I know we've talked as well about finances. Like, I've implemented some of the tips that you've given me about pocket money and things, and about teaching children about money, but it being equal. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, I know I'm really interested in the fact that boys are sort of, there's more focus on math growing up. And do you think that's starting to change, that we are making boys and girls a little bit more equal, or are you still seeing that in families?
So I think historically, girls, as parents, we're much more inclined to talk to to talk to boys about business and finance than we are to our girls, which is obviously, this is a something that historically, girls grew up and they became mums and they didn't work. Right. So this is like, it made sense. We don't need to teach our girls about money and business, because they're not going to be in money and business. Right. I get it. That used to be our world. That's not our reality anymore. We have many friends that are the breadwinners of families here in Singapore. And so it is imperative that everyone is given an equal access to the same education, same opportunities, same pay, all of those things. But it's interesting because I have two anecdotes here on this point. One is, I recently ran a workshop for some students, and they were university students, a mix of girls and boys here in Singapore, and gave them a pen and said, write on the wall what your current financial literacy status is, like out of 10. Is it 4 or 5, et cetera, et cetera. The girls all wrote 2s and 3s, all of them. There wasn't anything higher than a 3. The boys wrote 9s and 10s. And these were university students. So, and we were a bunch. I had 2 investment professionals with me, and none of us wrote 10 out of 10. Like, everyone, we didn't rank any of us thought 10 out of 10. 8 or 9 out of 10. These university students, boys, had written 10 out of 10. Like, there was nothing left to learn at 20 years old. And I just thought, whilst I completely disagree that he's likely a 10 out of 10, I also think the girls are unlikely a 2 or 3 out of 10, but it shows a huge confidence gap at this early age. And yet they probably received exactly the same level of financial education, which is probably next to nothing. But there's a confidence gap. So what does that confidence lead to? Well, it often leads to action. So if those boys are confident in their abilities, which they clearly were, they're going to take an action, and they're going to take an investment step, and what they're going to learn from that investment step. Now, rightly or wrongly, that confidence was probably misplaced. But nevertheless, it's going to be the thing that gets them to take action, versus the girls, and the lack of confidence will see them shy away from conversations about money and engaging. So that's a huge difference already at university age. This morning, I just interviewed some other university students, all girls. 2 of them had received no financial education whatsoever from parents or school. And the third had financial advisor parents, and they had given her good, advice from a very young age. And the difference, as the 3 of them head out into the big wide world of finishing university, the paths that those three are heading on are very, very different, very different. And in terms of confidence, in terms of knowledge, and in terms of risk appetite. And so this, I think, speaks volumes that we must teach girls from a really young age, from the age of 4, I would say, and boys too. Obviously, let's not overlook the boys, but everyone. Financial education from age 4 via the pocket money is so important. And I talk about it all the time, but Cambridge University says by the age of 7, many of our money habits are formed. So imagine if we wait until they're 12, because a lot of parents think, well, I'll wait till they can understand. No, they understand at 4. They can understand at 4 very simply, but you embed those habits every week. That's how they learn.
That's fascinating. I know. I love those tips from you. I'm honestly, it's so interesting when you delve a little deeper, because we weren't doing the whole pocket money thing, but it makes sense. The more, I mean, my parents were pretty on it, talking about finances and money. They had their own business, and I feel like it was inbuilt in us, but
Yeah.
there's not enough people doing it. And the repercussions, it's like when you talk about that confidence, I was really shocked when those girls were writing 2s and 3s. Like,
Yeah.
work needs to be done.
Well, Zoe, think about what we grew up with. I'm showing my age here, but like, I grew up in an era, I wasn't a massive fan, but of Sex and the City and shows like that, or Diaries of a Shopaholic. Girls shop. That's what we do, right? We flick our hair and we shop, and we spend all our money on Louis Vuittons or Louboutins or whatever. Like, no, we don't. Of course we don't. But this is the narrative that's been fed for decades. And so if you're told something over and over again, you may well start to believe that. And obviously, when was the last time you sat around, Zoe, and chatted with your girlfriends about what you're investing in? Like, women are just generally not doing that, but I bet the boys are. The guys are very confident and willing to share that, and that making that space to talk about it and learn from each other is where they take action. And women are just not doing that. Yeah.
What sort of reaction are you getting from the companies, the corporates? When you're pitching, I'm keen to know. We know that more men are in leadership. What's the general reaction?
That's a very good question. I think it's a mixed bag. I think a lot of people understand why we're targeting women specifically. One caveat is that we've worked with a number of clients already, and they want to roll us out to everyone. And what we say is that's totally fine, right? The key here is that if you work at, I don't know, let's say Facebook or Meta as it's called now. If you work at Meta and Meta sends you an email and it says, hey, Zoe, we've partnered with a financial literacy company as part of your benefits package. Here you go sign up. You're probably not going to sign up, but all the guys will. If Meta sends out a message to all employees and says, hey, everyone, we've partnered with Sophia, a financial platform for women, built by women, and look at the coloring, look at the marketing, look at the style, look at our expert speakers, all women. Like, this is got women written all over it. Oh, and by the way, guys, you're free to sign up too. You will see an overwhelming female sign up versus the other communication, which is just generic. So whilst financial education is not gendered, it's not like we're talking about shoes and handbags. We're talking about, financial concepts. It is about packaging, and you will know this as being a marketing professional. Like, it's about marketing. We're speaking to a very defined group of people in a very specific way. And of course, everyone else is welcome. Like, men buy our courses, like, we don't mind. But we just want that the women are the ones that we're targeting. So yes, I think so. As long as we have that narrative, we're not saying to corporates, oh no, we only work with your women. So we're very open-minded in that way. And I think that allows for lots of corporates to consider us. But I think COVID has changed the narrative around mental health, and the acceptance of the need to focus on mental health and financial health. Actually, even though we're not a mental health platform, financial health is number one. It's the foundation. No one can, enjoy their meditation or their yoga class or any of those things if they are worried sick about paying the bills. And the financial state and the global economy we're in a dire place right now. So it's more important than ever to support your employees or your customers with managing their money and making it go as far as it can.
Yeah, I think that it's a smart move that they are going to be doing that and offering that to their employees. I'm just curious to jump back one step. With the marketing, that just made total sense. This is a platform for women. Guys, you're not excluded. Do you advise them to market in that way, or do you leave it up to them to, is that your approach?
Yeah, we do. We like it. We like that approach because despite everything I've said today, I love guys and I want, and we know the data tells us diverse teams are the best teams, the best decisions, the best financial performance. So we don't want to just be, women. I don't believe women are going to rule the world or women are, it should be, it's equal. Equality is what we want, and equal opportunity and access. So we just want, we want corporates to offer us to everyone, because when you switch on one of our courses, whether you're male or female, you won't be feel excluded. You won't feel, it's not like we're banging on every 5 seconds about women's rights. We're just delivering financial content in a way that we know women want to learn. So yeah, we're open.
That is exciting. I can't wait to see what the companies that take you up and how the reaction goes, over the next few years and the changes that we'll hopefully start to see. Obviously, with Jobs for Women, we're working with a lot of university students, inviting them to our webinars. We're talking about, getting into these often male-dominated industries, and what's coming up a lot is, potential assumptions about being a woman going into the industry, and maybe some worries or concerns about it. What do you think financial businesses can do to attract and retain women going into the industry?
That's a really good question. Obviously, the number one thing they can do is partner with Sophia, because that speaks volumes to your women employees, that you value, you recognize the challenges and you value them. But it's not just Sophia, of course. It's many other things like that, there are certain things that women will face. And, this is the thing that brought us together: time off work, pregnancies, returning to work, breastfeeding, all these things, right? These are just part and parcel of our life. And they're not things that women ever want to compromise on. And we don't want to be backed into a corner where we're having to choose career or family, because that doesn't make us happy either. If we're picking one or the other, you want balance. And I think corporates, I think my simplistic view on this is, if you can't see women who look like you in those organizations, and I'm not just talking about, there are a couple of women at the top, so it must be okay. I'm talking about women that actually have a good work-life balance. They're happy. They're managing, a family, if that's what you've got. Someone that looks representative of the type of person that you are, and you can see a number of those people flourishing, then this is the organization for you. But I think that switching the power dynamic is it's not all about, where can I get a job? I've got to take any job. We want women to think about what type of environment they want to be in and doing their due diligence to ensure that. And from the corporate perspective, it's a no-brainer. If you don't have women in diverse, and not just women, but across all areas of diversity, and in the UK, one of our biggest challenges is that in these very large corporates, where I'm from in London, it's like, okay, everyone might have slightly different skin color, but everyone comes from the same universities and everyone comes from similar backgrounds, similar families. And it's not just gender, but it's like, different socioeconomic, students coming from universities, etc. Like different universities, be open. We don't just have to hire from Cambridge and Oxford. Like I remember when I was hiring, I used to look at lawyer CVs and look at like, oh wow, this girl or boy would be amazing. Look at her CV. Look at their CV on paper. Like tick every box, and make you feel almost very like you haven't achieved anything in life. And they're like half your age, and then you meet them, and you're like, oh my goodness, we couldn't put you in front of a client. And so it isn't just about companies that think that it's just about where you went to university or what your grade was, is like, this is just such narrow thinking. You're never going to get the right team. And so I would encourage companies to be much more open-minded in terms of where they're hiring, who they're hiring through, the types of people. My best employees have not been the ones with the strongest CV.
I love that.
And my other tip, sorry, I did just think of one other tip that I think is really useful. I'm hiring at the moment, and you know what I do as the employer is I do video interview. Like, sorry, not video interview, but I ask them to submit in their application. Just give me a 2-minute video of you. I want to see you. Like, show me some personality. Show me what you're about, what you can do, like why you're interested in this in 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
I love that.
Is really, really, because I think when you're looking at CVs on a piece of paper or on a screen, it's so easy not to connect with people. When you're seeing video, you're like, oh, I like her energy. I like what she's about. I'm going to give her an interview, which you might not otherwise do.
That's such a great idea. And what a great way to stop wasting people's time. It's like going through that process is laborious, and it's, time is our most precious asset, isn't it? That's what we have. So to then go through the CVs and then go through the process when you can pick up on energy, you can literally in 2 minutes be like, I get them, and I can see them as a good fit. I think it's interesting. I know we've got to wrap up really soon. When you talked about seeing the woman, not just a token couple of people on the board, but it's seeing them leaving early to pick their children up, having to leave the office because they need to be somewhere. It's actually seeing them doing the mother and managing the career at the same time, rather than, like you say, just having a token few people. Role models are so important. When I think back in my career, I often looked up the ladder to see what was going on, and it does make such a difference. And that's coming through loads through the webinars that we're doing. We also did a Women in Engineering webinar, and there was a great young woman at Land Rover Jaguar, and she's doing like a vocational course where the company pays for the degree, so she's like mixing it up. So she hasn't done the linear straight route going to uni, and she said she feels so empowered because she's learning on the job, and it was just a different route in. So I think that's really interesting. So before we wrap up, and there's loads more I could ask you. I could chat to you all day. If you could go back 20 years, what would you do differently? Is there anything that you can think of?
Yo, so much. Right. So I've got half an hour, right? So many regrets. No, not regrets, because actually, you know what? Like for most of us, I've had some real career highs and real career lows, a lot of career lows, but those career lows really teach you a lot about other humans and scenarios and situations. So I wouldn't take most of it back. But so first thing I would do is I would have I would educate myself better when it comes to financial literacy at a much younger age. Like this is like number one. Like I would empower myself, because that will also really help you in your industry. Like women that are financially empowered will go in and they will ask for what they deserve in a salary negotiation, right? This feeds into everything, like financial literacy, going in and asking for what you deserve in a job, going in and asking investors for money for your business. It gives you that confidence to do all of these things. So I would 100%, that would be my number one thing. My second thing would be that I realize now that just because I was younger doesn't mean that my opinion wasn't valid or that I couldn't push back on certain things, and that because people are older or more experienced that they knew better. And I think actually we live in a world where we're much more open. There's some hierarchical industries still, but for most of us, certainly where I am in like the startup world, like the youngsters, I sound so old saying that, but like the youngsters bring such new vision and ideas, and I'm learning from them, and it's like the roles have reversed. And so I wish I had pushed back more, and questioned more and raised my hand more, when I was younger. And the third thing would be that, I wish I valued my contribution more. Um, and I think as women, we're constantly, I don't want to say it's imposter syndrome because I'm not sure I agree with that. I think we're just told we have imposter syndrome. But I think that we probably don't often, we have an opinion, we know that it's right, but we're not pushing it forward enough. So it's not that we think we're wrong, but we're just not, we're not being assertive enough. And I think that I wish I had been able to do that. And also, sorry, I have four things actually. Sorry, my fourth thing is relationships, is understanding that those people around you in your work environment are crucial. Like whether you like them or not, whether you get on or not, like be in an environment where you thrive because of the people in your team, because of the people you work with, you're enjoying, and trust your instincts in that regard. I've had my fingers burnt with co-founders in the past, and I'm just like I knew that, but I did it anyway. And I like just trust in your instincts a little more and work with people that really like get you, your people, find your people.
That is the most amazing answer. I need to soundbite those points because anyone in their early career listening, that is the most amazing advice. When you think about it, I wish I'd have been more assertive, believed in myself, questioned. It's kind of like that yes person mentality, isn't it? Like when you're younger, when you're in your early career, do that, or this is how we do it. Okay, yes, yes, yes. Instead of
Yes.
saying, hang on, actually, let's
Mm.
just take a step back. And yeah, intuition is huge. I know we're both yogis and there's a lot about listening in. And I think that's such amazing advice. I'm going to definitely soundbite all of those because, you know, if I'd have read that in my early career and really listened to it and put it into action, then I could have, you know, you can shape your career. And I loved what you said about the financial literacy, number one, because yeah, what comes up again and again at Jobs for Women is asking for the salary that you deserve, that you know that you deserve and that you want, and asking for the raise. So yeah, I love that. Amazing answer. I know we've gone way over. You are a fountain of knowledge on this subject, and I'm just so happy that you were able to share everything that you're doing and your own experiences. So thank you. If anyone wants to connect with you, what's the best way? I can put anything in the show notes. What's the best
uh,
method?
Probably LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yes, LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm very popular. I'm very popular. I'm not popular. I'm
You are
very,
popular. You check out her LinkedIn, guys. She's very popular.
I'm very, I'm very active. That's the word, active. I'm very active there. Oh yeah, check me out. I'm so popular.
You are. Okay, Fab. So I'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I can't wait to have you on our Women in Finance webinar at the end of January. So thank you so much.
Thanks, sorry. Loved it. Thank you.